And welcome everyone to Wizards Outlook, the last Wizards Outlook of the Wizards pregame. I'm sorry, this is the last Wizards pregame and Wizards Outlook of 2025. Not the 2025-2026 season, just the 2025. We got Cardo Dudley Jr. here. I'm Wilson Tarpe Jr. And all right, we're gonna get straight to it. The Wizards, they're on the road tonight to face the Bucks. Cardo, we talked several times over the past week because Washington had a successful homestand. They won 2 of their 3 games. They fell to the Suns on the final game of that stretch, 115-101. During that stretch, during that contest specifically, Alex Sarr became the 4th player in NBA history to record 150 plus blocks and 100 3-pointers prior to their 21st birthday, joining Eddie Griffin, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Victor Wembanyama. As for the Bucks, they're coming off a 5-game stretch of road games. They went 3-2 during that stretch, capping off the last 2 games with back-to-back wins over the Bulls and the Hornets. Injury report, that's ever-changing. The Bucks will be without Taurean Prince. The Wizards will be without Keyshawn George, Corey Kispert, and Cam Whitmore. This season series, it's tied 1 game apiece heading into this one. It's the 3rd time these 2 teams will have played this season. The final game will be played at the end of January. Cardell, pretty sure you were in the building when the Wizards beat the Bucks back on December 1st. Mm-hmm. So what does Washington have to do to get another win in this season series?
Play defense. They did a good job of swarming Giannis. That was the start. They did a good job. Like when he thought he had space, the guards and wings, Keyshawn and all those guys, Justin Champagnie, Jameer, CJ, they was digging down on them, Bub. They was coming down, stripping them, blocking, and he was shooting against 2 or 3 people. And they were being physical. They didn't let him just bully him. Look, we can, Giannis, one-on-one, one of the greatest players ever. Everything on the Bucks starts with him. Averaging 28.7 points, 9.7 rebounds, 5.9 assists, on a game. But it's his shooting efficiency this season that's off the charts, 64% from the field. 40% from deep. He's not shooting as many threes, but when he does, he makes them at an efficient rate. And then, his free throw shooting obviously has been up and down throughout his career, but 64%. But he gets there 10 times, so close to 10 times, 9.5. So, as you can see with his efficiency, he's off the charts outside of free throw shooting. So you have to swarm him and keep him at bay. And it's just not the scoring; it's his playmaking ability. It's all his grades are high, so you gotta swarm him and make him work extra hard and see 2 or 3 bodies every time he tries to attack, so that you can miss. And then when he does miss, it's rebound. You got to rebound, because if you keep giving him second chances, obviously the defense is already sucked in with 2 or 3 bodies trying to defend him. If he gets the offensive rebound, if he can't finish, he kicks it out. They're gonna have a bunch of wide open 3-point shooters, and that leads me to my next point with the 3-point shooting, man. They're a highly efficient 3-point shooting team, and that complements Giannis. Like I said, everything is built around him. A lot of people don't realize they're one of the top teams in 3-point shooting percentage. They're 3rd in the league. As a team, they shoot 39.7%, and then they're 6th in the NBA in attempts. They get up 14.8. So they get up they make 14.8 per game. That's 6th in the NBA. So they're when they take their fair amount, they take 37 a game. They make them at an efficient rate, man. And it's they have a number of shootings across the roster at all positions. So you play them, you have to be conscious of Giannis, but you also have to be conscious of getting out to their shooters, making them do something else. Kevin Porter is dynamic, so even if you run him off the 3-point line, he's able to break you down off the bounce, get to mid-range, throw lobs, finish at the basket, shoot mid-range, run his floaters. He's just a dynamic player, man. You know what I mean? But I'm going to start to kind of gauge and to kind of show people just how efficient their roster and how deep they go with their efficiency shooting the 3. It's insane. Starting with AJ Green. Shoots 44.8% from deep, 6.8 attempts, and he makes 3 per game, man. And as you can see with his efficiency, those corners, the corners, you see they're red hot for a reason. You know, it's
Damn
ridiculous.
near 60.
Yeah,
I mean,
you understand what I'm saying? Like 47 now, up there, up there on the right corner, man. You know, he a little cold, man. You know what I'm saying? So there, you can kind of, you know, he with us a little bit. You know what I mean? But anywhere else, top of the key, you know, left elbow, the corners, he's automatic. It's all red, and you have to be wary of that. You know what I mean? You know, next up, you're gonna go to, you know, Gary Harris. He doesn't get a lot of 3-point attempts up, but when he does, he makes them similar to Giannis. 42.9%. Again, where does he shoot from the corner? You know, he's at this point in his career, he's basically a 3-and-D guy, man. You know, somebody just coming there to defend the guards, especially stronger guards. He got the experience, and he's a big guard. And then he spreads the floor from the corners. Kevin Porter Jr. just spoke about him. 42.5% from deep. He gets up about 5 a game, and he makes 2.2 out of the 5, man, per game. But it's not just that. You also have to be aware of, you know, how well he can break you down off the bounce. Like, that's really his game, just breaking you down one-on-one off the bounce and making a play, making the right read, whether it's going there to score or facilitate, man. And he's kind of become like Giannis is obviously the 1A. He's kind of emerged as their second option on the team, where it was like before you might have said maybe Kuz or Portis or somebody like that. Man, nah, he's kind of emerged. You know what I'm saying? Do you have the graphic on Porter? I want to see if I got the shot graphic or whatnot.
I'm about to check if I got it.
Okay, and he's running point, and he's a big point guard. He's about 6'5", 6'6". So, and he's another one that, like, okay, so they beat the Bucks last game. You know, they did a good job on Giannis. Kevin Porter was the one that kept him in the game. He was the one that they really couldn't guard, and that was at home. So, with them being on the road, I expect Giannis to have obviously played better, but I also expect Kevin Porter Jr. to kind of still do his thing. You know what I mean? Obviously, the refs are affected by home crowds. That's something the Wizards want to be wary of, but they gotta deal with him too. You know, it's not just Giannis. Giannis a handful, but you got to deal with Kevin Porter because you don't want him being comfortable and in rhythm, scoring from all over the place, and then he's finding all these shooters that they have on top of having to deal with Giannis getting downhill, getting to the free throw line, rebounding and catching lobs and all that stuff, and rolling to the basket off of screens and doing all that good stuff. You know, I spoke about Giannis already. Next up, you know, Ryan Rollins, 40% from deep. You know, shooting 5.8 3-pointers a game. He makes 2.3. That's your starting point guard in a sense outside of Kevin Porter. They usually start in the backcourt together and they take turns bringing it up. Kevin Porter being the bigger guard, but when it gets dire, then he goes to work. And as you can see, from the top of the key to the left side of the floor is all red. You got to be worried. Now, when he's on that right side, understand the scout, cool. And it ain't just 3-point range, even mid-range. There's something about that right side of the floor, he's not as effective. Cool.
That's crazy.
Yeah. That's cool. So you got to understand the scout. So, you know, for fans that's watching the game tonight, look for that. You know what I mean? Let's see how the Wizards adapt to that and if they stick to the game plan or what the scouting and what the numbers and metrics show. Next up, Gary Trent Jr. We all know he's been one of the top 3-point shooters in the league for quite some time now, shooting 37.8%. Gets up the same amount of attempts as Ryan Rollins, 5.8. Makes slightly less at 2.2. Ryan Rollins make a little bit on more threes at 2.3. And he's different because, you know, with his size, 6'5", and his bulk, he's not just doing spot-up shoot like, say, Ryan Rollins and sense like that. Ryan Rollins comes off of screens a little bit, but Gary Trent can come off the screens and he can also set the screens. So it looks like when they're doing sideline pick and roll, like if Giannis over there, he can go set the screen on his man because he's strong enough to do it. And he can just pop off with open three. And those are the matchups and stuff that you got to be wary of and the adjustments you got to make when they're in the game. You know what I'm saying? Because you can't guard everybody the same way. As you can see from the corners, already he's automatic. Top of the key, 40% as well, red. Left elbow area, 35%. Now that right elbow, I mean, he's cold. So you understand if he's shooting from there, you can kind of just slow contest a little bit. But he's able to put it on the ground too and get in there and hit mid-range jumpers and get in there, do floaters as you see right by the free throw line area, 50%, and the right elbow area, 66%. You know what I'm saying? So you see his effectiveness, man. That's why everybody has to be on the string. It can't be one guy. If you run him off the three-point line, somebody got to be rotating over, and then you got to be hustling back to get back to your man or get back to the guys, man, that rotate over to help you out. It's just as simple as that, man. It takes a total team effort, which they did in their last matchup with the Bucks. That's why they were able to win. But they were at home. We're going to see if it travels on the road. Last but not least, Miles Turner. It's 37.2%. Their starting center gets a 5.93 three-pointers a game, 2.2 makes. Again, we all know his bread and butter is from the top of the key transition. He getting the ball, he's kicking it out. The center's running down court. Typically bigs get lazy. They watching the ball. They're not really paying attention to their man. Now, all of a sudden, you deep in the paint. Point guard come up, pitch it back like, oh, he ain't down here with me on the block, because that's what bigs are taught to do. Run basket to basket, block to block. Try to beat your man to the block, establish position defensively, and make it hard for him to try to establish a position so that he can go to work and get comfortable offensively. And he can make it. He's 42% from the top of the key. Now, when you get to the elbow areas, right elbow, he's cold. Left elbow, he's pretty efficient, 35%. And then the corners, you got to be wary of that. And that comes from the sideline pick and rolls. You got to sideline action, sideline pick and roll actions. You got to guard him out there, man, because he's popping out. But he can also roll to the basket. But for some reason, he's not as efficient as he should be inside, which is also some of the Wizards should try to exploit. You know what I'm saying? Make him drive him off the three-point line, make him put it on the floor, see if he can get to the basket and finish and whatnot, man. So, you know what I mean? And do it without fouling, because he can't make 75% of his free throws, and you got to keep him off the line. Otherwise, he'll kill you from there. But, yeah, the Bucks are just, in a sense, outside of Giannis, they are three-ball in all team. You know what I'm saying? They're going to live by the three and die by the three. Now, again, we're going to get on the defensive side of the ball. Now, this is where the Wizards can exploit things and really play to their advantage. What has been the Bucks' Achilles heel this season? They don't defend. Once you get past Giannis, once you get past Kevin Porter Jr., it's iffy. It's iffy, man. And Miles Turner, while he's an elite rim protector, 2.5 blocks per game. His defensive rating is a 115. Look, man, he struggles staying with guards and wings when coming off of screens, man. Giannis obviously can stay with him, but him, you can exploit that. So use your speed, try to mix him up, get to the paint, and try to beat him to the basket. If not, you should be able to suck the defense in and, find some open shooters. Cole Anthony, their reserve guard. Look, 115, you see the grades. Isolation defense, a F. But he excels in ball screen navigation. So if you screen him, he's tough, he's feisty. You can't get lazy or lax. He's right there. He's following you, just like against Phoenix when we was talking about Gillespie or whatnot. It's the same type of deal. You got to be careful. He's crafty. He'll come from behind. He can try to block your shot from behind or strip you from behind or just crowd you to where you're not comfortable getting a shot off. So, but if you see him on the island, go at him, clearly. And he doesn't hold up. Bobby Porter's, it ain't, that's long been talked about how his defense isn't up to par, man. Isolation, you can get him, and ball screen navigation, you can get him. So if you see him on the court, go to work. No disrespect, the boy can ball, but he's one side. Look, he only gets it done on one side of the floor, and that's what the metrics and the ratings say, man. You see him go to work. So Alex R. and Marvin Bagley, Will, and all those guys up front, you know what I mean? That Bilal, you look, man, CJ for sure. You definitely, he come up there, set that screen, bring him to me. CJ, get the dancing. You know what I mean? Bub, all y'all, like, go to work. These are the areas where the Wizards can exploit on the offensive end. They don't have a lot of good defenders. Ryan Rollins, his defense rating 116. Now, he does stand up an isolation defense where you try to, ISO him on the island or whatnot. But his weakness is chasing guys off screens. So he's small, 6'3", but he 180. That takes strength. Again, a lot of people don't understand when you chase somebody off the screens, you're bumping. You're literally making contact. And if you can't absorb that hit, it delays you. If it delays him, then the guard should have no problem getting in the mid-range, getting to their spots and knocking down shots. But anything else, man, you got to be careful with him because, as you can see, all A's, he's elite. You know what I mean? So, I'm not even going to keep going with everybody else, man. It gets worse and worse. But, again, the Wizards have their opportunities. They can exploit mismatches. Keyshawn as well. I haven't mentioned him. They have a lot of guys that can dribble, pass, and shoot. So you recognize matchups, make the right reads, and just try to exploit them on that end, and just hold up defensively, like what we said, run them off the 3-point line, crowding Giannis, and it's no reason why they shouldn't be in contention to try to pull out this win again, just like they did, a couple of weeks ago in DC.
Yeah, and I think it's one thing listening to the words, but seeing just how bad some of these folks are on that other side of the ball. Man, it's offensive to read.
And look, man, and you would think all season, you better get on some agility drills, be on the football field in that sand, get on the new, work on that, man. What study film? It's a want to, man. It's a will thing. And it's more than a will. Like, I hate when people just think, defense just about energy, effort. Man, you could be the most high motor hustling fool on defense ever. But if you don't know what you're doing, you're just going to foul out, especially in this day and age with the foul calls that they give. You have to be highly, highly smart. Like, defense and defenders, you're already at a disadvantage because you're guessing what the offense trying to do. You may have an idea, but you really don't know. So you're already a little bit behind the eight ball as is, man. So you got to be in shape and have the awareness and the fundamental principles on defense to be able to adjust on the fly like that, depending on, and not just with your guy, with whatever's going on the other side of the court, man. Or wherever you at, you got to be able to adapt on the fly, and that takes this. Yeah, it takes hard, but it takes this. You got to know what you're doing out there, and you got to understand the matchup. You got to understand the scout. You got to understand player strengths, their weaknesses. You got to understand their tendencies. You got to understand if you can get in their head and stuff like that. They like physicality. It's a lot of stuff on the fly, split-second decisions that you have to go through to get that stop and consistently get stops. So it's not easy. It takes work. To me, it takes more work than offense. You know what I mean? Because you're out there, you're honestly you're guessing, and then you're reacting from that. And, the elite teams, they're guessing, but they dictate a lot more, and they hold up. And that's what frustrates offensive players. It's like how OKC got off to their hot start, and all you heard with the league was complaining, man, they get away with holding and stuff like that. Look, man, it's called defense, man. Y'all figure it out. You know what I mean? So, I mean, that's just a 1-2 thing. You want to work at it, you want to be great at it, or you don't. And unfortunately, we're in an era where a lot of players feel like it's optional, which is wild because half the game is played on that end. So if you're not, it's not like they're average. They like they're solid. They hold up. They're terrible. They're food, like bad. You have no impact on that end. That's why you see so many teams up and down. They might look good for a week. Next 2 weeks they'll look bad because and the thing is, most people don't realize about defense. And my last point, and it's back to you, is defense is the one aspect of the game you can be most consistent at. I don't care how great of a scorer, shooter you are, you're going to have off games where you just can't make shots. Defense is something that can travel, and defense is something you can bring every single possession, every single game. You know what I mean? If you know what you're doing, if you're really diligent about it, if you're really locked in on making sure you're the best at it. And it's just we're in a time where a lot of players are just not as committed to it as they should be.
And it's absurd because we think about people always talk about how much space people play, the game is being played in these days. And even when you were just talking, you mentioned Gary Trent Jr., how he's one of the players as a guard where he ends up being the popper in screen situations. Mm-hmm. So think about what that does defensively. At times that's normally guards usually have to navigate screens in that manner. There's a lot of times the way people run offense now where they're forcing bigs to navigate screens how guards would, and bigs don't. Naturally, that's not something they normally do.
Right.
But again, people have thrown evolution, everything else into the discussion. This is why it doesn't make sense that people don't work on that stuff in the offseason. Because the teams that do hold up, the bigs that are able to navigate, obviously, bigs aren't going to navigate guards, screens like guards. All bigs are not going to hold up in space. But the longer you can hold up, like you said, the brighter you are, where you can recognize when it's coming. So maybe you can move out the way so your guard got an easier path to get in there and blow that thing up. Your defense holds up. But all that takes work on that end. Like, you have to. Like, this is a team, like, a few years removed from a championship. It's one of the worst. Like, the defense is trash to watch.
With Miles Turner and Giannis inside, two elite and rim protectors, right? So I'm glad you brought up the spacing and how people try to use that as an excuse why guys can play defense. Since when basketball players don't run and cover space, you're literally running up and down. That's covering space. That's something you're used to. To me, it's easier to play defense now. Maybe not like with the rules they allow, the offensive player bumping off. Like, but in a way, it's easier because it's less physicality. I'm trying to tell you, as a former player, got up to the pro level, all that. Like, as a former player, believe me, it's tougher after a game when it's super physical. You hurting, you beat up, because you're gonna have to get up and down regardless. You're gonna run. That's easy. You're used to doing that. But the banging and then coming off the screens and the hitting and being physical and taking charges and jamming up cutters and stuff like that, that wears you. That takes a toll. So you don't have to really deal with that as much anymore. You know what I mean? So you should be fresher. Now it's just a track meet. So all you got to do is be in shape where you can get up and down and just be fundamentally sound. When you close out, understand the scout. Understand if guys can go right. Their percentage is going right, going left. And close out at the angle to force them wherever their weakness is. That's what I mean. Up here, you got to be aware of that. You see what I'm saying? So it's not really. Are you committed to that end or not, man? And a lot of guys, honestly, it's not just. It's before they get to the league. They have been allowed to gloss over that end of the floor because they're talented. They can score. They're dynamic and stuff. And some coaches are along the way were scared to lose them. So they let them do whatever they want and stuff like that. And now you up to a level where the talent evens out. You're not that dude no more. So how can you truly make an impact if you're not willing to play defense, not really do the work on that end, man? And also the last thing, yes, defense is hard work. It's hard work. It's a low reward as far as praise. Like, the people that see you do it on your team and within that organization, they're going to appreciate it. They see it all the time. Oh, people within the league, they know. But with the fan bases, most fans don't even know what they're looking at. So most fans not going to understand if you're a great defender. Most people just think it's iso ball, you just hold up and all that. No, you could be a great help side defender. You could be a great team defender. You see what I'm saying? Like, everybody don't have the lateral quickness and stuff and to keep up with the quicker guys and be able to hold. Like, everybody can't be Lou Dort. Everybody can't be Alex Caruso. Draymond when he's at his best and stuff. Kawhi when he's at his. Everybody can't be those guys, okay? But you can be a great team defender, and you most definitely can elevate your defense to a point where you're not food, where it's just F's on your grade, bro. Like, you should see that and like, damn, I got F's, and I'm an NBA player. If you got any sense of pride, like, nah, we at least gotta get that up to a C, where I'm solid. I mean, like, I can't even play you, but Doc got a bunch of dudes with F's on, and like, you know what I'm saying? So they got to bomb away for three to make up for the fact they can't stop anybody. And Giannis do what he do, and that's why they're below 500 right now.
Like, that's that. All the graphics you showed on that end of the floor before we get out of here was Ryan Rollins was the only one who had his was the only acceptable sheet where it was A's and the bad grade was still, it wasn't F. Everybody else, it was F, and the high grade was C. You can't win like that. You can't survive like that. Like you said, to your point, that's why the record is what it is. That's why the discussion, the discourse around that team and what may or may not happen is what it is. Like, You're not going to win anything. The league can be as wide open as it wants to be. You are not a part of it if you're only playing one end of the floor.
Because dog, you're gonna have stretches where you don't score. The other team and the other team is gonna go on a run. They take the lead. How the hell are you gonna get the lead back if you can't get stops? Even if your offense wakes back up, you still gotta get stops. Now it's just a shootout, but they already up 10. They got the gap. They got their cushion. So that cushion is just gonna hold up till the game is over. You're gonna have to get stops, but you can't. So you gotta hope you just blow them out and stuff. And that's just a tough recipe to lean on to try to win each and every game.
Hard pressed to do that, but we'll see what happens tonight. The series is tied at 1 apiece. The season series again. Cardell laid out the things to keep an eye on for you guys, and we'll check back in with you guys after the game on Wizards Outlook, as always.